So I'm just going to pick up canter with him and just do a little bit of canter each way, just to help warm him up a bit. And so in today's demo, what I'm meant to be focusing on is cross-country, which is quite difficult in an indoor arena. But I'm just going to, I've got 3 little exercises I'm going to run through, which you can all simulate at your homes. All of you who ride have got your own horses or ponies. There are exercises you can do which will help improve your riding and also get your horses more manageable and easy. So while I'm just warming him up a little bit, I'll just talk about your position for cross-country riding. Now, for obviously us riders, we're meant to be being really helpful to our horses, whereas you often see riders who are just sort of getting in the way, really. The best we can do when we're riding across country is to be as quiet and as still as possible. Be soft and light on their backs. As you can see now, I am standing slightly up in my stirrups. I'm just touching the saddle with my bottom each stride, but I'm not heavy down on his back. And this is the sort of position that you want to adopt when you're galloping from fence to fence across country. So you're soft and light on their backs, lightish with your rein, obviously depending on how strong they're being, but as soft as you can with your rein, and as light as you can with your seat. So you're just nearly just a bit of a passenger, really. Obviously, your job is to go, to tell the horse what speed to go at, on the approach to fences, make sure you come on a really good line to a fence to give the horse every opportunity to jump that fence well. And on the approach to a fence to, adjust their pace according to what fence is ahead. So the more technical fences with parts A, B, C might need them to be on a more condensed, shorter stride so they can be nice and quick and athletic. Whereas obviously a big parallel or a big hedge with a ditch in front, you can afford to then come much stronger with a much more open stride and jump it forward out of a fast stride. So obviously the horse is reliant on you to ride each fence correctly. And it is all about building up this real sort of trust between horse and rider, that sort of trust that makes a horse go and jump all these ridiculously big obstacles we ask them to jump. If they don't trust the rider, they're going to be nervous about what they're approaching, and they're much more likely to stop or run out, to be looking for a way out. So that's where all these little fiddly little exercises, especially when they're young, to get them very sort of established in doing these exercises, and that will, all the time, you're gradually building up that trust and that partnership between you and your horse. So that, in the end, dear Archie, he would jump anything now that I approached him at, because he trusts me that whatever I'm asking him to do, that it's safe. Whereas a young horse who used to come spooking to a fence and think about running out, and, he was sort of scared. And it's just gradually teaching them that no, trust me, and I promise you I won't put you into a difficult situation. And that's where you must just gradually build up what you ask them, not ask for too much too early, not be tempted to suddenly jump something much bigger or much more technical than they've ever jumped before. Just gradually build up to those sort of bigger fences in time. Good boy, Archie. So I'll just canter him a little bit this way because I had a bit of a left canter. Good boy. Now, also, as far as your position, I've said about being light in the saddle. Then your lower leg, that's so important as far as your security in the saddle. And as you see, I'm cantering along, and we all get taught, don't we, to keep our heel down, toe up when we're riding, but it's amazing how many riders don't do that. So cantering along, keep your heel down, toe up. For cross-country riding, you nearly need your lower leg slightly forward. So your weight in your heel and your lower leg, rather than back here as you're cantering along. That's no good, because when you jump a fence, your lower leg will come back even further. And in that position, as soon as the horse sort of stumbles or does something wrong, you're going to fall out the front door in no time. So that's where keeping that lower leg nice and strong, nice and forward, and sort of wrapped around him is what helps you to stay in the saddle. And I always say to people, you shouldn't really fall off unless your horse falls over. You should learn to be that secure in the saddle that you can stay on. And actually, there's a funny story with Andrew Nicholson, the New Zealand event rider. He was asked, he's known as Mr. Stickability. He's incredible at staying on horses, whatever, even if they have quite a mistake. And he was asked to ride this horse that was having trouble with its previous rider. It was starting to stop at water, was obviously had lost confidence about jumping into water. And the rider couldn't sort of get that confidence back in the horse. So Andrew was asked to ride the horse, being a sort of stronger and a bigger man. And so obviously he took its schooling, and he then went off to Punchestown 3-day event. So must have felt it was ready to go on and give it a go around a big course. And so we were all fascinated to see how he got on. And there was a big water complex there, a pond with a stone wall right around it. And you had to jump over a stone wall into a pond, 3 strides over a stone wall in the middle of the pond, so water to water, and then another 3 strides out over another stone wall. And so real sort of eyeful for the horses. Anyway, and so we were there watching, wondering how he was going to get on, and he came galloping down to the fence. He really revved the horse up. He got it really forward in front of his leg. And the horse was could see the water was coming, but he was very strong and encouraging it and to go on and be brave. Anyway, it did go and jump in over the first wall, but it was backing off a lot. He then rode it forward as he could to the second wall. Well, it left a front leg down as it took off. And because of that, it went and caught the top of the wall, and it ended up doing a somersault, a real head over heels over the wall in the middle of the pond. And I just remember seeing the horse's hind feet right up in the air, and then suddenly they'd sort of then disappeared behind the wall with an almighty splash. And then a couple of seconds later, up got the horse with Andrew still on his back. And he just gave it a whack and a kick and over the next wall and carried on. And I thought, well, there you go. That is true stickability. So anyway, that's to the extreme, really. So, yeah, don't let your horse down by just falling off, because that's, really annoying. And it does happen. You do often, even at the Olympics, I won't name names, but there were a couple of riders just fell off, and really, okay, the horse might have stumbled a bit or did something a little bit, but they were obviously a bit loose in the saddle. And nervousness can make you a little bit loose and a bit sort of give up when things go wrong. So you have to try and, conquer those nerves and keep strong, keep powerful. Right, okay, enough talking. Let's get going with a bit of jumping. Now I'm going to first of all just do a little exercise, 2 fences on a turn. And this is an exercise to teach you to really be thinking about the horse's stride pattern and to make you very aware of it. And it'll help you learn to be able to then judge your distance to a fence as far as being able to come nice even stride and to be able to get to that right takeoff spot so the horse jumps it well. So it's a little exercise just to, it's good for the rider because you have to be effective. You'll see by condensing the stride or opening up the stride. The horse has to learn to be obedient. He's got to accept you steadying him up or moving him forward without there being a fuss. And it's all those sort of, it's a good thing to learn, to teach a young horse, to begin with. When you start to steady the canter, collect the canter, if they know their jumps ahead, they might get quite feisty and a bit buzzy and chucking their head around. But they have to learn to be able to shorten their canter without it being a problem. And then, again, when I go on a more open stride, to not then think yippee and shoot off when you ask them to go a bit faster. If you wouldn't mind, could you make one just into a crossbar? I'm literally just going to pop over a little crossbar. When you're starting to jump a horse, don't suddenly start jumping big fences. Think of them, think of their muscles and their body. Just a couple of little jumps just to sort of get their bodies working a little bit. Even though obviously Archie's capable of jumping great big fences, I'd always start over just over a couple of little fences just to get them going a bit. So, good boy, right, don't pull. He knows exactly what's going to happen, don't you? So you wait. Okay, so even when I'm jumping, I still am quite conscious about how he does his transitions from one pace to the next. I don't, because it's jumping, just sort of forget about what he's doing. So I still expect him now to go from a nice walk to canter without there being a fuss. And that's where, it's up to you as the rider to keep on top of all their work as far as being very strict yourself, picking up on their mistakes, and then rewarding them when they do things well. So it's black and white, what's right and what's wrong. And it's if, like riders are slack who say you pick up canter and he goes into canter, throwing his head up a bit, and you think, oh, well, never mind, next time I go into canter, I'll make sure he keeps his head down. Well, that's no good to the horse. They don't know, that, they're allowed to canter with their head up, they'll do it next time. Because it's easier for them to go into canter, lifting their head up, whereas we want them to canter on, keeping their head lower. So, it's up to us to be strict with ourselves and with the horses to make sure we do things correctly all the time. And then it becomes second nature for them to go in that way. Good boy. Mm-hmm. Good boy. Okay, so on we're going to go, and just a nice little crossbar. He's a good boy. So just trying to keep a nice, even, energetic stride all the way to the fence. Good boy. Okay, and then I'm going to change the rein. So do a flying change. So he changed then from his left leg to his right leg. So literally just trying to sit there. Don't have to do much as a rider. Just sit quietly. As long as you've got a nice canter coming to the fence, just sit quietly and let them get on and jump it. Okay, if we could go up a bit. Thank you. Good boy, Archie. Okay, so now we're just going to go a little bit higher. He's a good boy. And really just the bigger the fence becomes, just more sort of stronger the stride needs to be. Something that Captain Mark Phillips told, I've had show jumping lessons from him in the past, and he's a very good show jump trainer. And one thing that's always stuck in my mind about the quality of their canter really helps to how well they jump the fence. Obviously, a horse that's a good jumping horse can jump over quite a high fence, whatever sort of canter he's got. But as a general rule, the bigger the fence becomes, just the stronger, more powerful you need that canter stride. And it's a bit like, this is what Mark Phillips said, it's a bit like bouncing a ball. If you want that ball to go higher, you don't go faster, you don't go slower, you go stronger. And then the ball can easily come off the ground. Well, that's just like their canter. Ride it, and they need you to tell them what to do. Ride with a bit more energy, a little bit more power, and then you'll make it as easy as possible for them to jump the jump. And that's meant to be why we're on board. We're meant to be trying to make it as easy as possible for the horse. Although it sometimes doesn't happen like that. That's steady. Okay, so I'll just come and pop over that one. And if you watch my lower leg, hopefully you'll see it doesn't move, hopefully. Right, good boy. I'm just going to come around and jump the other fence now. And you watch, I'm a bit going away from you all, but my lower leg should just stay in this position. Good boy. And again, with my upper body, that's a very common mistake that riders, more sort of riders that are learning, more amateur riders, they'll fold really forward. They'll go forward. over the jump. You don't need to go too forward. If you can watch my upper body, I keep quite still. Okay, go a little bit with them in the air, but you don't need to be very aggressive with your upper body. If you think when a horse comes to a jump, that last stride, he's then going to try and lift his shoulders up off the ground to jump the jump. If at that moment, when he's about to lift his front legs up off the ground, suddenly the rider goes forward with their upper body, you're suddenly transferring all your weight over their shoulder, which is what they're trying to lift up off the ground. So try and think of letting them close the angle between your upper body and the top of their neck. Let them take off. Let them come up to you, as it were, for the jump. And okay, you go with them in the air, and then you straighten up as you land, but try not to duck down too quickly on takeoff. Because when I'm teaching, that's the most common fault, is riders are too forward with their upper body, and they let their lower leg go back. And those are two things you have to work out: lower leg forward and weight with your upper body.